guys, welcome to the channel and welcome to a very special video of a Q&A. So the goal of today's video is to answer all of the questions that you guys asked about my M3. So a few people have been complaining that there hasn't been enough content on the M3 lately. So today I decided I'm going to do a wash mixed with Q&A. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I highly recommend doing that because that is where I usually put a post or a story or whatever asking you guys to ask questions on a specific topic, and then I'll answer them in a video. So the first question asked is, hey man, what oil do you use for the M3 now that you moved to South Florida? So I actually use the exact same oil. It's Castrol 10W60, which is the recommended BMW weight. When I was in Ohio, I also used 1060. I considered doing, maybe like a winter oil that wasn't as thick. That way, if you start the car up in the winter time, there's less stress on the engine, but I wasn't driving it a ton in those freezing temperatures anyways, so it didn't really seem worth it. Phil asks, have you addressed the rod bearings and what is your plan for that? So my M3 is a 2011, which means they changed the bearings from copper to aluminum. It also has 43,000 miles on it. So with that said, I'm not that worried about rod bearings. The percentage of cars that have issues is very low, and I think the copper ones tend to have more issues, but with the aluminum, there's no way of knowing. There's no signs of wear. So it actually is a little bit more scary if you think about it, because if you do Blackstone tests on these cars, it doesn't matter because there's not gonna be any sign. Or if you do a Blackstone test on ones with copper bearings, you're at least gonna have some idea. And now there's a garbage truck. Sick. Alright, welcome back. How much money do you spend on fuel? Well, I spend 45 bucks to fill my M3 up. I use 93 octane and I get roughly 16.5 to 17.5 miles per gallon. And I fill up most of the tank when it's empty. That's kind of a hard question, but hopefully that sort of answers it. Romaine456 says, thumbs up. Thanks, buddy. Titanium N62, thanks for commenting. I'm looking to make a step up in the next couple of months. What's a good price range on an E92 M3? Well, they range a lot because if you get an 08 with a little higher mileage and dual clutch, it's gonna be upper teens to low 20s probably. But if you get a competition package 2013 with low mileage, manual transmission, single hump, you're gonna be paying probably in the 40s, low 40s, maybe mid 40s maybe. So I would say go for a car that has under 50,000 miles and is a 2011 through a 2013. You'll probably pay mid to upper 20s, maybe lower 30s. But if you want a dual clutch and you don't mind getting an 09 or a 2010, you'll definitely be saving some money there. JZ6IX asks, any plans to supercharge, or maybe could you do something different like turbocharge it? Well, I like the idea of supercharge. I actually drove Michael's supercharged E92 M3 in a 6-speed, super low miles, so go check that video out. And I loved it. It's a lot of power. It can be kind of a handful, to be honest with you, but it feels really good. Anyways, back to the question. So the question is, do you plan to supercharge it? And to be honest with you, the answer to that is no. It's a lot of money for a mod like that for me, and you don't really get it back. You can always take off the supercharger kit and resell it, but it's just a lot, and I'm not really, that's not really why I bought the car. I'd love to supercharge it, but to spend 5, 6, 7 grand or something like that on a supercharger kit, it's just not in the cards for me. Regarding turbocharging it, I think there's a reason why not a lot of guys turbocharge it. I think the supercharger kit is the way to go. It's pretty reliable if you go with a brand that people know and have done it and they're very experienced, so I'll definitely go supercharge if you're interested. I just wouldn't have an interest in turbocharging a car. I had a 335 and it was really fun, but I think if you were to do anything serious power-wise, that would be the way to go, is supercharge. You plan on selling it? Not in the distant future, but if I have to get a different car or a car that I really want or want to experience or something like that, if it requires it, I'm gonna have to do that. That's just the way the game is. front end carbon fiber splitter for daily driving? Well, to be honest with you guys, I have the little splitters on the front of my car and I got them from eBay. And before you start critiquing me, just understand, when I lived in Columbus, my driveway was probably one of the steepest driveways that you would ever have to get in. And as a car enthusiast, you would definitely remember it if you ever had to enter it or exit it or something like that. I had to go the cheap route, the splitters, because I knew that it was bound to happen if I was going in and out of the driveway. So if you're worried about clearance, what I would do is spend 150 bucks on some eBay splitters that have good reviews, rock them for a while and see if you crack them or mess them up or scratch them. And if you don't, then maybe I would go with a nicer lip or some maybe BMW grade splitters or something like that. But I did the cheap, easy route. If one of these gets broken or flies off, I'll just buy another one. It's no big deal. Martin says, can I drive the Jeep? Yeah, man, you can drive the Jeep. E36 Dude 420 says, are you planning on swapping in a 2JZ? Nope. But there is a video where someone was commenting and saying how garbage this engine is. I should swap one of those in. I don't think it was you, but I think someone was really excited about that. What is the weight? What is the horsepower? And what exhaust is on it? So the weight, I believe, is 3,750, so 3,750 pounds. I think that was with me in the car. I will put the numbers on the screen, put the standard weight on the screen of what these cars typically are. Horsepower is 414 from the factory. And what exhaust is on it? So I have test pipes done, and I also have the OEM muffler mod. And if you're not an M3 guy, it's as simple as keeping the stock muffler, but all you do is cut out the pipes that go through it, which are perforated, and replace them with straight pipes that are straight without perforation, which really clears up the sound, gives it a little bit more bite. And I actually bought the car with that exhaust mod done, which if you're not gonna do anything and you wanna keep the cost low, but you wanna make the sound a little bit more proper and give it a little bit more bite, that's definitely the way to go. Spend a couple $100, have a trusted shop, just cut those out and weld them back in. Definitely recommend that. What color is it wrapped and what wheels are those and spacer size? Man, you guys are really taking advantage. You're asking like 4 questions at once. So it's not wrapped any color. This is Alpine White. I have XPEL on it, and the XPEL is several years old. So in certain lights, unfortunately, it doesn't look as clear as it could. I'm actually in contact with XPEL in hopes that they replace it. I'm not really sure if that's going to be possible, but maybe I'll eventually peel it off because I'm not really liking the yellow effect that I'm seeing in certain lights. What wheels are those? They're OEM competition wheels. They're called ZCP wheels. They're 19. And the spacers, right now I have 17.5 millimeter in the front and 12.5 in the rear. Thinking about getting one, what is the reliability and common problems with them? So my experience has been excellent. I haven't had to do anything to this car other than fun mods and just regular maintenance items, oil changes and things like that. So I would say the common things that people talk about, one are rod bearings. If you get a low mileage car, I don't think there's a lot to worry about. The key there is the warm-up procedure. If you're doing the right warm-up procedure, the rod bearing stress is going to be much lower. One other big thing that people talk about is the throttle actuators. So the throttle actuators tend to go out. It's kind of random, to be honest with you. Some guys have 90,000 miles and they just went out, and some guys have 40,000 miles and they went out. So it's just kind of random, but that's a few grand for both of them. If you can do it yourself, you'll probably save some money, but the throttle actuators, I would definitely, if someone said that they replaced them, then that's big, because that's, I think, at least 2 grand to have them fully done, including parts and labor. how much did you spend on maintaining your car? Well, I will put that number on the screen right now. Keep in mind, I bought the car at like 34,000 miles and now it has 43,000. So I haven't driven it a lot relative to maybe someone else. So my maintenance is going to be lower than someone who drives at 20,000 miles as opposed to 10. Love the videos on YouTube, man. Keep them coming. You got it. When to do differential and transmission fluid change. I did mine pretty much when I got it, which was around, you know, like I said, 35,000 miles or so. I would do it in about 30 to 40,000 mile increments. So if your car has about 30,000 miles and it hasn't had it done, I would start thinking about getting those two things flush, which are actually really easy to do yourself. No question, just some POV driving, please. Well, you got it. Dark Knight M6 says, why is it so dirty? Well, it's kind of funny that you asked me that because I just incorporated a wash video into this Q&A. Rufus says, is it fast? Well, I'll say it's quick. It's not fast. There's plenty of cars that are easily faster. A 335 with a few bolt-ons, it's faster than the E92 M3 stock. So, you know, this isn't a car that you buy because it's super quick, but it is a car because it gives you a great driving feel. It sounds great. It looks great. It's very quick. It's properly quick, and it has a lot of emotion to it. That's why I like it. Harry K says, do you feel the car has enough torque? Generally, no. Especially because all the torque is up in the rev range. You have to really wring this motor out. So most of the torque and a lot of the power is, I would say, over 6 grand. You know, 6,000 to 8,000 RPM is where you're actually going to be pulling. Where if you're at 2, 3, 4, 5,000 RPM, it's like knocking and no one's there. You know, it's gonna go, but it's not gonna pull you like the M5 has a lot of torque down low. So when I'm pulling away from a red light, I have that instant torque, feel like 2,000 RPM and has torque down there, where this car doesn't have that. Will you ever get a car to replace it? Most likely. As much as I'd love to keep the M3 forever, you know, there's lots of other cars that I wanna have and experience. You know, whether it's something, you know, quote, quote, better or just something different. I love having this car around, and every time I drive it, I'm like, why don't I drive this car more? Maddie1776 says, would you ever get custom headlights? Maybe. I don't mind the ones that I have right now, the stock ones. I put Lux H8 180s in them, so link in the description if you want a discount. I have the link to my site where you can buy them. It's in the description. It's always in the description. There's going to be a discount if you buy them through me because Lux has agreed to work with me. Custom headlights are several $1,000s, and to me, as great as they may look, it's just a lot of money spent for me, and it's just an aesthetic thing. I'd rather spend that on a different exhaust or something like that. Maddie1776 also asks, next modification, you should get a Palm Performance front lip. I would actually like to get a front lip for this car now that I'm in Florida and I'm not really experiencing a lot of crazy driveways or anything. And I'm also usually driving it on areas that are clear and I'm sort of planning the drive. So I would consider a front lip. I don't really know much about the Palm Performance one, but we'll see. If you ever had to keep one for the rest of your life, M3 or M5? I actually would say M3, although as I drive the M5 more and more, and I pretty much daily drive the thing at this point, I really can appreciate if you have one car and it's the M5, I totally get it, especially if you have kids or you need to have more than one person go with you. The M5 is a great car, and an E92 M3 is great, but you know, it's technically less practical, but I would pick the M3. Luke says, DCT or 6-speed? Is that a question? Of course the 6-speed. The DCT is great, it's faster, it was built for the DCT. But for me, when I get in more of a sports-oriented car, like a sports car, a coupe, something like that, I really just like the manual transmission. And now there's a bird. Are those alloys 19 inches? Yep. How much MPG do you get? Around 17. What size rims are you using? Well, the wheels I have are 19. Chris says, where is the pussy magnet?
A man yesterday told me if I buy a car, I must buy one with a pussy magnet.
He means a car that women will like.
Yes, but where you keep this magnet?
No, there's no magnet. No, it's just, he means the vehicle.
I haven't found it yet. I don't think this car was equipped with that feature. N546IX says, I love V8s and always wanted one. I have a BMW 335 IS. Should I upgrade to an M3? Well, it just depends what you want. I had a 335, it was the N55 motor, which is, you know, less tunable, but I would say drive one. You know, drive one a few times. Consider the fact that the M3 versus the 335 is definitely a step up from a cost perspective to maintain it. To me, if you have one car and you're semi-budget friendly, but you want to have a sports car, the 335 ticks all the boxes. You can get it in a manual, you can get a 4-door, you can get X-Drive, and you can tune the crap out of it, or you can just do a mild tune like I did. The M3 feels twice as good to drive. I think it looks significantly better, and I turn around and look at it all the time. When I had my 335, I always wanted an M3. Now that I have my M3, you know, I'm not really interested in the 335s. They're crazy good and they're crazy fast, and for what it is, it's an amazing car. But I would say it just depends on, you know, what your goals are. If you're trying to be the fastest car on the road, don't get an E92 M3. That would be kind of a waste. Alright guys, so that's gonna do it for all the questions that you asked about my M3. I wanted to do a dedicated video because I haven't given the M3 a lot of attention on the channel lately. I have been driving it, but I just haven't had a reason to film it. I haven't had any mods, I haven't really had any maintenance, and actually, I keep going back and forth about changing the exhaust setup on my M3, and really the reason is because after hearing a few other ones, you know, in the last several months, even really the last year, I feel like I want to change. You know, I kind of want to change up the sound. You know, mine sounds like a crazy chainsaw. You know, it's obnoxious and it's kind of high pitched, and I don't hate it, but I'm just kind of trying to change it up. You know, maybe what I'm thinking about doing is just changing up the rear section to something that might give it a little bit deeper of a sound. If there's any other questions that I didn't answer that you may have, feel free to comment below. So with that said, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll see you next time.